right. So today's topic, which I can't seem to keep remembering, it's, and then whenever I ask anybody, they'll go, it's something about habits. So it is about our experience of habits and and systems. Because here we all are in this teaching, the science of mind teaching, and I did this, treatment that we allow the new to be created and not carry the past forward, and that living is creating, and creating something new is what the divine does, and what we are here to participate and cooperate with. And yet we find ourselves stuck with ourselves. And so the easiest experience, or the easiest part of myself, or maybe part of you too, to change is my thought. It's very easy to change your thought, right? You may be thinking one thing, and then you look outside and you see a bird, and all of a sudden you're thinking about the bird. It's very easy to change your thought. Thoughts are very light. They're very easy to just flow around. And yet emotions are thoughts that are deeply agreed with in us. So it's still thought, but they're denser, and there's more complex. But still, emotions can be changed if you set that intention and really work on changing your thinking. You will find that your emotions follow. And so during a service like this, or any kind of inspirational talk, or reading an inspiring book, we find ourselves all fired up, right? You're ready, you leave here, you shut off the computer, you're ready to go, right? Change everything. And then you're stuck with you, right? And it slowly gets bogged down, and it gets bogged down by our habits. And our habits create our world. So when we have a habit of living with a certain perspective, we even arrange our furniture to manifest that habit. It's so unconscious, but everything in our world, our relationships, everything is very difficult for us to change, because it's a whole collection of long held thinking, call it beliefs, that has taken form. The spiritual mind treatment, that affirmative prayer that I gave at the beginning, I said that the law just takes what was created, all of the form, and uses it as clay and remolds it into something new. But if I want to create something new out of, this paper, I got to do stuff, a lot of stuff to it to change it. I mean, I could eat it and spit it back out. I could, burn it. And then just imagine, like trying to remold your couch, which for me needs some remolding right now. I've been sitting on it. So, so when we are feeling that newness surging in our mind, and then in our heart and our emotions, we need to realize we've got a whole structure and system of habits that are based upon the old thinking, and it's there, and it has to be dealt with. And sometimes the dealing with it can completely drain all of those new ideas, right? Because, right, our mind thinking is the easiest to shift. So as I decided to go through all the photos that my mother left to me, a whole, giant bin's worth, I begin with, I'm going through these photos, and very soon my attention is grabbed by the faces, by the people in those photos. And now my thinking is about those people. And now I'm thinking about all the thoughts that created the bin of photos to begin with. And I'm no longer thinking the new, let's get rid of it, let's get rid of it, let's get rid of it. I'm thinking, oh, and then I'm sitting on the floor with all these photos all over me, and a cat laying on them all, and nothing's getting thrown away. And I just spent 3 hours. Where in the past? Which I had just done a spiritual mind treatment that I let go of. So we need to be wise to the stuff around us, to what got created around our old thinking. And then when we leave a talk such as this, realize I got to face that stuff. I've got to face that stuff. And maybe there's a new way for me to approach it that I don't get diverted by it. But we have to be on our guard. We've got to know our stuff. So along with this idea of our personal habits and our personal structure that we've got laid out around us, collectively, right, we've got our cultural habits, our systems. Let me take the school system, which is in chaos right now. And this talk is addressing 2020 or 2020 experience, because the one good thing that happened this year was we could not keep doing everything the way we used to do it, which upset us greatly because we like our habits and we want to go back to the way that we were. We want to not have to think about our systems and think about our structure. And yet our systems are the perpetual habits of a collective group of people. And we may have outgrown it. And maybe the original system needs to be rethought. So right now with education, God bless all of you who are involved with it in any way. And I know you're all being thrown for a loop, children, students, as well as the teachers. And yet this is because a whole new way of thinking about education is wanting to be emerged. Is the old way working? Well, it's not working in 2020, but was it even working in 2019? Or was it just it's safe and what we're used to? And we've always done it this way. I said a couple of months ago, I'm sure I said, everybody's got to read The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, right? Because there were a lot of you who said you've never read The Lottery. It's a short story. Did any of you read The Lottery after I gave you it as homework? No. Thank you all very much. Okay, so The Lottery is an evidence. It's a story about a system of behavior in a community that has forgotten the reason why. And when we examine the reason why we created a particular system, we might discover that our reason has changed. I was on a rant this past week about changing daylight savings time, going back and forth. And I've been saying, what is the reason? I don't remember what the reason is. You can tell me whatever the reason is, but I will bet you all the money I have in my wallet that we no longer have that reason. It might have been a really, really good reason when it all started. I'm sure somebody is going to post the reason. Good, Google it. But do we need it anymore? It's crazy. Let's all change it. Hour forward, hour back. And we all just keep doing it. So to have that insight of newness, to take a step back, not just from let me change the thinking in my present mind and let me get all inspired and let me get out and act and then get all dragged down into the nothingness and have to create tiny habits which create big changes, which is our human way of changing ourselves. And I'm all for that, believe me. But taking a step back and going, why am I doing this to begin with? Is this serving my purpose? Is your home arrangement serving the reason why you have a home? Do you know why you have a home? What's the point? We have people coming and going, leaving, everything changing. It needs to be reevaluated. I know we have a number of people in our community who have decided to sell their homes. It's no longer serving the purpose. Let's go do something else. Let's have a different arrangement of ourselves. And let's have a different arrangement maybe of some of our systems, all of our systems. I mean, I love Seth Godin, Godin, and I get his almost daily emails. And he says, this he wrote in September, when can we talk about our systems? And so he says, universities and local schools are in crisis with testing in disarray and distant learning ineffective. Yeah, when can we talk about what school is for? Right? You just had an argument with a family member. What's the best way for that family member to see that you're right? Or when can we talk about the narratives your family has developed for generations? When we are embracing newness, it is time for us to take a serious look, not as in unhappy work, but as in, what am I doing? I remember when I got my very first professional job, I worked for the Ohio Legislative Budget Office. And I remember sitting there, and in that office, we served every single legislator, regardless of what their political affiliation was. We gave them all our best insight and answers to whatever their question was. So there was anyway, back then, it was all paper and typewriters. And I remember that, and there was so much work to do. I remember sitting at my desk, and for me, out of school, first real job, sitting at a desk, and there would be all this paper around me. Then they'd be piled up here and piled there, and there'd be paper in front of me, and I'd have to be writing memos and, moving all the paper around, and the people would be typing, and there'd be more paper coming, and then it'd be filing, and it was all over the place. But anyway, I remember sitting there in the middle of all that, immersed in the system, in the job, and all that. It's all that was in front of me, my first big job. And I remember every once in a while kind of looking up, like coming up for air or something, and going, what the hell am I doing here? What is all this? Oh. And I went back down into it. I couldn't figure it out. But as my life unfolded, I realized I was so out of my true self, my true nature, that it just didn't fit. But it's what I thought based upon the system I grew up in. It's what I thought my life should be. And so I lived it. But as I began questioning, wait a minute, what is the real point of my life? Why am I living? Well, all that went right to where it belonged. And everything I went into confusion, and my whole world got rearranged into a better arrangement to better manifest what I decided I am here for. And so that's what we do when we are claiming newness. We are deciding, what am I here for? What is important for me? And then be prepared for everything getting rearranged. And so for taking this opportunity that 2020 has provided us by not letting us do what we like to do and do unthinkingly, like even why am I driving a car needs to be asked. Why do I think? I mean, I need to get in the car and go get groceries. I know so many people who are like dialing in, ordering and having the groceries delivered. I mean, why do we do anything that we are doing? This is a wonderful opportunity to take what seems to be restrictions as a blessing in some way to serve the purpose of letting us see whether what we thought was important is important. Maybe it is. And then you can appreciate it and realize, wait a minute, this is really important to me. But maybe it's not. Maybe there's some areas where we discover, you know what, I'm actually doing better without this. A lot of people are cooking at home. I mean, I'm learning Italian. A lot of my class, well, most of my classes have gone into Zoom. I love technology and technology loves me, right? I mean, all these things are opening up that I never would have looked at if my systems had kept being in support of my usual habits. I would have kept on going the way I had been going for another 10 years or longer, who knows? Even though I would keep like claiming something new, something new, something new. So last Sunday, we had this beautiful Thanksgiving experience. First of all, I thought we wouldn't fill up the time with all of you sharing your gratitude. Well, we went over again. You know, there were only 12 people in the room and I think another 15 watching and who shared whatever, but we filled up all the time and then some because that's what we do and that's what we love. And even though the circumstances changed, we still did what was important to us, sharing our gratitude with each other. And then we like to break bread. And so some members in our community decided, no, this is important to us, and we're going to make it work in a whole new way. And we had this wonderful experience, which personally I prefer to the big potluck inside. Even though I don't do the preparation in either event, there was something simple and sweet, which contained the guts of what we are doing without the hullabaloo. My family, for Thanksgiving Day, we were able to come together, and because of all that happened in 2020, one of my family members has gotten into real health behaviors, and walking every day is very important to them. And I heard that and I said, how about after our Thanksgiving meal, we go for a walk? And everyone agreed. And I had this beautiful, beautiful walk along the Columbia Trail, a place I always had wanted to go to. And Columbia Trail, it's like filled with there's all these little fairy houses and gnome houses and little critters that the people who have walked it have placed along the trail, and they're hiding. And I'm like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, I'm going to bring something and stick a little fairy house somewhere along the trail myself the next time our family walks along this trail, because it was so sweet that our old habit of sitting around and watching The World's Dumbest Criminals on television, we decided to, go for a walk. And we liked it so much, we're going to do it again. Our family dynamic changes when we're walking along the path or when we're sitting watching The World's Dumbest Criminals. We tend to fall asleep on that. So, we're nearing the end of 2020. And I've been thinking about our burning bowl ceremony, and happily Susan gave you all an announcement. We're going to do an outdoor tree lighting ceremony with whatever, and we'll do the burning bowl ceremony outside somehow, whatever. We'll make it work, because there's something in the essence of this that is just so wonderful, and I want to continue it. And in all this, one of our little traditions is to write a letter to our future self at the beginning of each year. And with that, I'm thinking about those letters we wrote last January 2020 that we will be receiving December 31st, 2020. And when I think about my letter, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm going to demonstrate much, because everything that I wrote in that letter, I fear didn't happen because of the world. But I don't know. I haven't read my letter yet. And our practitioners and practitioner interns, they keep merrily, doing spiritual work every single day. Someone is doing a spiritual prayer for all those letters that we wrote back at the beginning of the year. And we're going to have to get them back and look at them. And I don't want to, because I might feel I fell short. So the year's not over. And what I invite myself and all of you to consider is it's not over. It's not over till it's over. And even when it's so called over, we get to write another letter. But the thing is, we certainly didn't expect all that happened in the world. But how much good that we didn't expect, how much new good did show up that was beyond our imagining last year. And that's the question, because the new self that we are claiming for ourselves, at least today, is revolutionized. And it needs a revolutionary shift in our habits and in our systems to open up the cracks of our settled ways of being and the cement and concrete of our beliefs, to have them break open so that we're free to make a new choice, to think about ourselves in a new way, and to realize that maybe what I wrote on that list in January was based upon a set of systems and habits and assumptions that I thought were given, and that I was trapped into thinking within. And it never occurred to me that I don't even have to be limited by that structure, by those givens. How much of what I had seen for my future was based upon these unconscious acceptances of the way things are. And can I, if I haven't yet, break free of believing the way things are the way they have to be, the way we are on our planet? I love rewatching the Johnny Carson episodes, but I will tell you, he wouldn't get away with one night with what was going on back then in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. I mean, even a joke is so impolitically correct. I mean, it's just politically incorrect. I mean, but that was just the way it was. It was just accepted and it was given. It's filled with discrimination, marginalizing, bullying. And I sit there and I laugh. Misogyny. I mean, it is unbelievable. The dumb blonde, you name it, whatever. But yet that was the system that was accepted. And we've been cracking it open and cracking it open and cracking it open. And yeah, that to change that system has required some extreme behaviors to the contrary, because systems and habits are so concretized that it requires a lot of energy to change it. And so here this year, one good thing, it was done for us. It was done for us. Now, what have we done with it? Maybe not much. Okay, then what can I do with it? It's not over. J. Scott Neal wrote, he gave a talk back at our annual convention in California decades ago. Good enough is never good enough. There is a greatness factor within you. And he says, we frequently say, I wish I was 20 years old and know what I know now. And he asks, what are you doing now with what you know now? What are you doing with your greatness? And so we have an opportunity to rethink things, not to go back to the way they were unthinkingly, like, oh, good, thank you. But as in, let's go back to the way we did things because upon careful reflection and evaluation, it works. And let's appreciate it now. And then with so many other things, let's take a look at it and say, this is a good opportunity to not just rethink it, but let's start restructuring it before we just blindly go back into doing it. And so for us individually, right? Those of you who've been cooking at home and walking more and more exercise, all these different things, as things open up and the world, quote, returns to normal, oh my gosh, my prayer for each and every one of us is that we do not return to normal.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
No, let's return nowhere.
Yeah.
Let's move forward into our greatness, into that which had been abnormal, but which will become normal for time. Right? Yeah? So, decades ago, I heard Dr. Robert Bitzer give a talk called Break the Shell of Habit Encasement. Break the shell of habit encasement. I don't remember what he said in it, but I really remember that name. And what we have this year is the gift of the habit encasement being broken for us, right? And now we're free to wiggle into something new.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Namaste.
We got amens going on in the room. All right, that's good. So let's take a moment with all that and move forward. And Reverend Rich will give us a wonderful song to sing. And then I'll come back and do a spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer to support us in whatever it is, new ideas that are floating around in us. So let's do that practice now.